Hare Krishna. You're watching ISKCON Durban live, and in our studio here at the ISKCON Temple, we have a very, very proficient, wonderful, expert guest who's come all the way from Mumbai, India, on his world travels with a very important message, sharing some of the very deep spiritual understandings in contemporary contexts. I'd like to welcome Gauranga Das to South Africa. It's been a phenomenal trip so far, and our guest has a string of accolades. In fact, I was just thinking that the South African government and community do not know the caliber of person that has been visiting us today. So today we're going to do that. We're going to let you know who he is and what he does. So to begin, Gauranga Das has been known in the contemporary circles as a mindful leadership and meditation expert, and several initiatives about meditation, yoga, and preventative de-addiction initiatives with the youth, giving them empowerment. So I'd like to ask you to please explain that. What exactly does that mean?
One of the big challenges the world is facing today is problems and diseases related to the mind. Sometimes people ask me, I don't believe in spirituality, I don't believe in religion, so is your message of relevance to me? Should I even see you, meet you, talk to you? So I say that, well, you may not consider religion or spirituality relevant, but definitely you consider health to be relevant. So therefore, I say that from another angle, we are into mental health. And WHO has defined health as a perfect synergy between body, mind and spirit. And so because of lack of mental health, globally there are more than 300 million people experiencing depression. And that's because of weak mental health. So when we speak about mindfulness, it means focusing on trying to understand what the mind is. And the mind has three aspects to its functioning: thinking, feeling and willing. And the mind has a tendency to go in its past and in the future. And therefore the mind by nature, it imagines various problems and magnifies issues. And therefore, how we can focus the mind on the present? By becoming aware that we as the soul is different from the body, the mind and the intelligence. And therefore, mindfulness is focused around trying to be more aware of the connection of each one of us with the Supreme. Therefore, we try to engage the mind as the means to meditate. And therefore, the kind of meditation we do is known as mantra meditation.
You explained it, mantra meditation, because viewers are probably used to meditation as being a yogic practice of maybe hatha yoga, stanga yoga. What is mantra meditation?
Just like in medicine, you have homeopathy, allopathy, naturopathy, and when nothing works, then Tirupati. People go when all the medicines fail. But different strains of medicine are there, but all are concerned with one thing: health, restoring health. They're all concerned with fighting disease. So although apparently it may appear that all these different types of treatment methodologies are different, but they are not conflicting, in the sense that their ultimate vision is to fight disease and restore health. Similarly, as far as mental health is concerned, distraction, anxiety, stresses, all kinds of various problems and habits, addictions caused due to weak control over the mind is the main challenge everybody is facing. and there may be various means of tackling it. We personally follow a method called mantra meditation, and therefore this is a sound-based medicine. Just like you have cough syrup, which is liquid-based medicine. But medicine can also be sound-based. And therefore, in Sanskrit, man means mind, and tra means to release or relieve. So mantra means a sound-based medicine which relieves the mind of its inherent anxieties and worries. So that's what mantra meditation is.
Have you found this process to be effective? Is there some evidence? Are you going around with it? What are you seeing? What kind of results are you finding?
The proof of the pudding is in the eating. So one of the most difficult challenges the world is facing today is tackling various kinds of addictions and crime. And so when a person's heart is influenced by the viruses of lust, greed, anger, all of you are aware of how various scams like Enron and Lehman Brothers and others literally wiped out billions of dollars overnight. And that was not because there was lack of food to eat or house to stay, but it was excessive greed. So now, in scientific parlance, can you actually hold greed, within a box and demonstrate? But the fact is that people are responding to the influence of greed. Various kinds of crimes are committed across the world because of greed, because of lust, because of anger. And so we find that there is a need to address these internal issues which crop up from the mind. And therefore, those who connect with this process of mantra meditation, we find are able to overcome the influences of these bad habits, addictions, have better self-control over their mind, over their senses, over their emotions. One of the big challenges the world is facing is domestic violence.
Yes.
It goes very silently, behind closed doors, but it's all because of inability for a person to control his own self. So the biggest management institutions across the world are teaching people how to manage corporations. But management begins with managing oneself.
Yes.
And therefore, we are trying to share with people the science of self-management. And unless you know what is self, you cannot manage yourself. And therefore, the Bhagavad Gita, as it is written by Srila Prabhupada, it gives details about what the self is and how the self can be actually controlled. And that's essentially the idea behind mantra meditation. On the other hand, there have been several scientifically designed experiments which have been conducted, and reports have been published in peer-reviewed journals across the world, details of which are available. And especially the effect of sound vibration on the mind has been very deeply studied by Maharishi University in Iowa, and they have 7 to 8 huge stacks of volumes of journals, which I personally saw, in which detailed experiments have been conducted. Likewise, as far as the Mahamantra is concerned, in Mumbai we have Bhaktivedanta Research Center, part of Bhaktivedanta Hospital, and there the impact of chanting of the Mahamantra on ease in recovery from disease and overcoming trauma has been also studied. But these may be the only external effects of the mantra. The ultimate goal which we are aspiring for is of a much deeper theological basis. But these are just some of the broad principles.
It's really interesting to know that this tangible evidence is there. And you touched on an important point about many of the world's problems stem from these, would say, negativities that exist in the individual. And given that, people in society are actually looking forward to having good leadership. And it's generally a leadership that seems to be letting down or causing these problems. And I noticed that you're also been engaged with, you're on the board of advisors of an institute called Chanakya IAS Academy,
right,
and training future bureaucrats. Could you just tell us about that academy and what this entails?
As all of you know, that to govern the nation, you have this two-tier system, one of ministers, the second of bureaucrats. I'll just share with you the numbers in India, that around 1 million people apply for appearing in this exam for Indian Administrative Service, IAS. 1 million people aspire, begin the journey. The final number of people who are actually admitted in the whole range of bureaucracy is 1,000. So the race for 1,000 seats begins with 1 million people. So you can imagine the kind of competition which is there. Now, India has a population of 1.2 billion, and practically these bureaucrats, after passing their exam, and it is a very rigorous process of prelims, mains, and then interview, then the elite first 100 are actually offered seats in the administrative service and the diplomatic service. Beyond 100 ranks, the 900 get other kinds of postings like postal service, revenue, and various others. That's also not considered green. That's not core bureaucratic. So therefore, in one sense, people are aspiring for that 100 seats. And how many are there? 1 million. So the stress levels are very high. So, as you know, that when the stress levels go high, then in spite of having the best kind of competence, people are unable to actually cope with it. So we want to help at two levels. One is we want to help at the level of those who are actually studying for these kind of exams. Help them understand that yes, those who are able to clear these exams and become bureaucrats, they should know that leadership means three things: competence, character, and attitude. We call it the coach model, COACH. CO competence, A attitude, CH character. So therefore, unless you have competence along with attitude and character, as a bureaucrat, you will simply be processing FILE files without LIFE, life. So we want leaders who have the consciousness that I am here to serve the society. It's astounding that sometimes during lectures when I ask some of these aspirants, students who are studying for the exam, why you want to become bureaucrat? And some of them say, I will get higher dowry, I will get bribes, I will get this, I will get that. There are such statements of blatant corruption even at the time of studying for the exam. So what are the values which are driving some of these students? So therefore, Mr. A.K. Mishra, who is the founder of the Chanakya Academy, he reached out and we have collaborated that they have around 700 hours of lectures which they teach in a year, out of which they'll give around 25 to 30 hours for ethical education, so that we kind of give 12 modules of 2 to 2.5 hours each, where we touch upon various aspects of ethics, character, attitude, based on Gita, based on Bhagavad, which could have far-reaching ramifications for the individual. And tomorrow when he is part of a society and team, he would be actually able to contribute as a servant leader. So therefore maybe they have 7,000 students who are enrolled in their coaching academy, and every year their average is 300 to 400 make it in the final 1,000. So they are very successful academy, and so they have gone to the next level of adding character-based education also. Now, our focus is also on those who don't pass, because those who pass, they are actually going to be leaders in society. They have control over whole districts. They have the entire government machinery, millions of dollars of budget behind them. Just with one signature, they could literally change the destinies of the whole society.
Yeah.
So they have so much power. So that's ethics and character would work very good for them. But there are others who don't clear the exam, and they go into a depression spiral. And so you can imagine if 1 million people are aspiring and only 1,000 make it through, so 99.9% are going to be failures from the perspective of this exam. But when they fail in this exam, the aspiration and ambition to become a bureaucrat is so strong that they just can't get it out of their system. They try once more, and they try once more, and they try once more. I know people who have tried 3 times, 4 times, and they say we can neither succeed in this exam nor give up the thought because it's become an obsession. And just imagine 1 million people, if they get into this kind of mental state, what a loss of youthful energy for the society.
And that's not just 1 million, it's every year.
So just imagine how important it is for us to help people come out of that rut and make them feel that, okay, if this doesn't work out, option A doesn't work, there is option B, option C, E. There are various ways in which you can contribute. And therefore that hope we are trying to give.
I can really see the relevance of that in the South African society as well, because we, given our history and a large disadvantaged community that we have, who have these aspirations in a contemporary society. So it's kind of resonating with what you're doing there.
Right.
And I certainly hope that somebody who is watching has the influence to invite you to speak about these things, even to influential members in our community. Because certainly leadership in this country, leadership in other governments of the world, they need to listen to these lessons. So, closely allied to your involvement with government and officials, you mentioned servant leadership, and there's also AL, which is authentic leadership. These two are very prominent in corporate circles. They seem to be drawing from Eastern paradigms to run their corporates. Now, what's your experience with that, and why do you think corporates are actually looking towards involving people like yourself?
Actually, if you go into the most famous book on Eastern mysticism, which is the Bhagavad Gita, and if you look at the cover of the Gita, you just see a classic example of servant leadership. Krishna was born in Mathura, and then he spent his life in Vrindavan for 11 years. He killed many demons, fought many battles. And then even in Dwarka he had encounters with quite a few. But on the battle of Kurukshetra, it was like the Olympics. It was like the grand finale. The most attractive of all battles. The battle of all battles was going to happen. And the grand stage was set, and it was the perfect place for Krishna to show his prowess. And even today when you ask many Indians, they may not know names of various demons Krishna killed, but they are more familiar with the battle of Mahabharata, the battle of Kurukshetra. So in such a scenario, at that moment, Krishna decided to retire from battle. And he allowed Arjuna to fight that battle. That's a classic example of renunciation, succession, and allowing Arjuna to be empowered. And not only that, Krishna became his chariot driver. And in those days, when a warrior is with a chariot driver, in the midst of the battle there is so much of noise all around, you cannot communicate in that noise. So the only way the chariot driver can be communicated by the warrior is by kicking him from behind. So Krishna, Supreme Lord, was receiving Arjuna's kicks for 18 days during the battle. just became a chariot driver in assisting him. So therefore, when we speak about servant leadership, leadership is all about influence. How we can impact and create influence in a way that we are able to transform our corporations, our organizations by inspiring people in the right direction. With the right kind of inspiration, intelligence and strategy, things can change. And therefore, in my own experience of working in a rural village, in rural Maharashtra, I have seen that to transform any organization or create tangible influence, you need three things. Number one, inspiration. Second, integrity. And third, intelligence. Without inspiration and integrity, all kinds of intelligence strategies will just fall through. And therefore, when we speak about servant leadership, it's about first establishing one's credentials with integrity.
I noticed, coming through from your own practice and your involvement and your understanding, integrity is a very core component of what this is. And therefore, when we talk of leadership, that is an essential point. And one of your other accolades is that you're a director of a ecological project known as the Govardhan Eco Village, just outside Mumbai, and has won many awards. Over the last 5 years of hearing, you have 28 awards. That is absolutely phenomenal. And recently, then last year, you've got 2017, you got the United Nations Award also. So there's recognition of your involvement. Now, in this, you're bringing together those environment leaders. So how is this project linking with environment leadership around the world? And what message are you trying to bring with this tool?
So, as you know that nowadays people are all very fascinated by smartphones, smart cities. So therefore the Govardhan Eco Village is modeled as a smart village. So our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, he has this scheme of smart villages. So being part of ISKCON, we have been present in more than 600 to 700 locations across the world in the last 50 years. And in India also we are prominent in more than 100 to 150 cities. But we wanted to increase our presence in the village also and connect with people in the village in a tangible way. And so we decided to create this smart village. One of the big challenges villages are facing in India, just as I shared the statistics, that there are 700,000 villages in India and 800 million out of 1.2 billion population of India live in villages. That's a very huge number. But there is a very steady flow of migration from village to the city. And the reason being that the villages are being neglected and income is not being generated. Villages have become a hotbed for all kinds of addictions, unemployment. Although there is substantial investment being made by the government in agriculture, somehow things are not working out, and there are farmer suicides, which is very prominent. And therefore, our concept of smart village is in terms of the acronym SMART. So we figured out that unless a person is stable in a village, he would always want to move from there. So to arrest migration, you need number one, stability. And when does a person experience stability? When he experiences satisfaction. If you are dissatisfied, you would always want to do something different. If you are dissatisfied in one place, you would want to go to another place. If you are dissatisfied in one company, you want to change to another company. So how do we ensure satisfaction so that a villager or a farmer and his progeny, their families, they feel satisfied in a village? That was our overall vision. To ensure that stability and satisfaction, then we wanted to create MART in the SMART acronym. So the M stands for morality. That means in the cities, people are experiencing anxiety and stress due to the rat race, where nothing is enough. And whatever you may provide, everyone wants to have more and more and more. And therefore, in a country like India, you have practically around 270 people committing suicides daily due to anxiety levels, and practically 1 out of 6 professionals in the metros, in the prominent metros, they are experiencing stress-related complaints. Why? Because there is no philosophy explaining what is the purpose of life. So therefore, as I was sharing about Paul Bayroch, he has explained, as the Belgian economist, that India has been very special because for 1700 years, India was leading the world's economy. But it had a population which had control over their emotions. So the economic growth did not come at the cost of sociological crisis. It did not come at the cost of individual emotional paralysis. The society was in harmony and people were peaceful and happy. Why? Because they had shelter of a true north, a purpose in their life. And therefore, we began by actually sharing the knowledge of the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita with people in the village, sharing with them the idea that ultimately everything belongs to the Supreme and we are more or less trustees on His behalf, and we should be in the mood of being a servant, not being an enjoyer and a proprietor. And previously in villages in India, every evening the families would gather around and there would be discourses and dramatic performances centered around Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam. This was common. That was originally rural India. But now, people are all addicted to various kinds of habits because they do not have a purpose. So therefore, morality very crucial so that they understand what's the purpose. So with that, we have various kinds of de-addiction programs because alcoholism, drug addiction is rampant in the villages. So we're trying to share with them the idea of getting a higher taste in life, a purpose in life, and so they are able to have a better self-control, morality. The experience of satisfaction is greater when they have certain moral values and a purpose in the journey of life. Then A stands for ability. So along with morality, now they need to start earning a living. And so we want to enhance the ability of the farmers. We want to enhance the ability of the wife of the farmer. We want to enhance the ability of the children of the farmer. So for the farmers, we have created programs of rural development by actually having various kinds of organic farming training techniques, cow dung, cow urine based organic farming techniques. We are helping them preserve original authentic seeds which are not GMO. We are also training them how to do Vedic rainfall prediction. We are teaching them how to create their own manure and insecticides and pesticides based on cow dung and cow urine. So all of these kinds of trainings help the farmer increase their productivity. There is something called as Wadi scheme, which is agroforestry, where sometimes if a crops fail, so if agriculture fails, they can take shelter of horticulture. If that doesn't work out, then there is floriculture. So a mixture of regular crops, fruits, flowers, all of that put together, and in even a 1 acre, 2 acre plot, how they can grow it. So we teach them that. So that's known as farmer development, Also along with that is watershed development, watershed management, because water is a very scarce resource. But fortunately in Maharashtra, in the particular district we are working in, we get 3,500 millimeters of rain. But if it is not responsibly managed, you lose all of it.
Yes.
And therefore we help them with watershed management. Then the second aspect of ability is the women. So we teach the ladies various kinds of skills so that they can support also the family with some income. We teach them various kinds of cooking related items which can be sold in the market. We help self-help groups being formed where various ladies come together and create various kinds of products which can be sold, simple products which can be used for domestic use, small scale industries. So therefore this is part of our women empowerment program. Third is, as far as the family is concerned, health is a major concern for both the husband, wife and the kids. So we are running mobile clinics. We have a dispensary there set up by Bhaktivedanta Hospital. We have cataract eye camps and other kinds of camps on a regular basis. Various kinds of polio and other immunization happening. So we try to improve the health and hygiene in the village. And then the other aspect is education. So how the village school principals can increase their capacity. So capacity building for the village school principals, providing support, inspiration, training. Also we have various vans called science labs.
Yeah.
Because village children do not have very good quality training and education, so they get confused with concepts. So when you have these vans which are filled up with all kinds of dismantleable, things which can be very easy to communicate the science concepts. So we have few vans like that, and we are collaborating with Agastya Foundation for that. So like that, we are also distributing food in more than 50,000 to 50,000 school children in the nearby areas. Overall, this food distribution program runs over 2.7 million school children across India every day. Daily. For all the working days of the school through the year. But in our area, we are distributing in around 50,000 school children. And this increases their attendance in the school, increases their attention and absorption of the studies. So it provides support to the family. And then the last aspect of providing or supporting with the ability of the farmer is there are certain class of farmers who are landless. They do not have land. So then we help them, set up their small shops, in the village, so that with the seed funding and help, they could set up their own businesses and try to run their own way. So overall, helping the farmers experience better sense of responsibility and improving their quality by adding to their abilities. So the A stands for ability. So then the R stands for respectability. Because as I was sharing the other day that a farmer, a teacher and a soldier are very crucial, but they're not so respected. So then many times, even if you earn money, but if you're not feeling respected, you don't want to stay there. So a farmer has to feel respected, and the farmer has to also reciprocate with Mother Earth with feelings of respect. So it has to be mutual. So respectability means we help the farmer gain respect, and we also train the farmer how to respect Mother Earth by having responsible methodologies for farming and developing the village in sustainable manner, and that is with respect to food, water, energy and waste. All the chemical based farming, it is very, very deadly, because when the rain falls, the rainwater runoff, it percolates through the groundwater and pollutes the aquifers. And all kinds of deadly diseases manifest after 20 years, 25 years. And therefore in India over the last 50 years, there has been a 40% increase in the degradation of the aquifers due to groundwater pollution, thanks to all of the chemical based farming. through which this rainwater is percolated. So organic farming and water conservation and aquifer protection and preservation are all connected. And therefore, we are encouraging the farmers to shift more from NPK based farming to organic farming. Why? Because the overall impact on Mother Earth is much more positive. Then we have water. So we train the farmers how to do conservation of water, rainwater harvesting, and how to do aquifer recharge. And even in our own eco-village, which we have created in the midst of these 25-30 villages, we began with the hydrogeological survey, which is a very responsible way of dealing with nature, because you're first trying to understand the nature of water underneath. And therefore, thanks to the rainwater harvesting tank which we created, we are able to regenerate more than 1.5 million liters of water as rainwater harvesting. And because of having the aquifer recharge tank, so when you cut out the sides of the ground and allow the water to percolate from the sides, it goes, and then the groundwater levels increase. So our groundwater levels have increased significantly over the last 5 years, thanks to successive monsoons and the water percolating inside. So then, because of this, it's a simple technique, but then overall, you are actually able to conserve water with very sensible water management. The other aspect of complete water management and responsible water management or integrated water conservation is that you also use bore wells very sparingly and use the proper techniques to identify where the open wells can be created. So between aquifer recharge tank, rainwater harvesting tank, bore wells and open wells, then we are able to actually manage our water needs. And also there is a nearby river which flows right next to us. So therefore we have an integrated approach to water conservation. So this is how we respect Mother Nature with respect to water. Another very crucial aspect is, in villages people think that you can dump waste wherever you want because thousands of acres are available, what difference it makes? No. If you respect someone, you deal with them very carefully. And therefore, we believe that it is worth investing in technologies which would process the waste before it is disposed. So disposing of waste without processing is highly irresponsible. And then all of this black and grey water, if it is just either put in septic tanks, the septic tanks overflows in monsoon season, and then it starts percolating in the groundwater, and you have incidents of E. coli coming in the groundwater, and you have dysenteries, and more people die out of dysentery than even wars. And therefore, polluted water is one of the major causes of death.
Even in this country, we have, the cholera epidemic.
So therefore, how we can prevent the groundwater from being infected by all of this is by responsible waste disposal. So waste is of 4 types. First is plastic waste. So we have a plastic pyrolysis plant in the eco-village. Right now it is not, I would say, financially fully viable, but we run it with the help of corporate social responsibility. But a lot of research is going on how this pyrolysis plant can actually be viable. So it converts plastic into diesel oil. Okay, it may not be high grade diesel oil, but still we are very committed to try to use this to process all our plastic waste. Then you have all kinds of food waste and organic waste, the leaves and the plants and things like that, which are foliage. So the food waste, and this is used in two areas. One is the biogas plant, along with the cow dung, and also for composting. So we have solid biotechnology, solid waste treatment bed, and there we have these processes for treating them. It converts into manure within a month's time. And then the third kind of waste is other kind of construction debris and other kinds of waste which cannot be processed directly like this. So for example, we have plastic bags from cement plastic bags. So we use that for growing our nursery plants. We have construction debris. So we use it for permanent raised bed technique to create various beds. So we use that in our agriculture and other practices so that the construction waste and other waste, solid waste, can actually be utilized. This is the third type of waste. Fourth waste is black and grey water. So that which comes from the bathrooms and the toilets. So we have a huge sewerage, gravity-driven sewerage system, several manholes. It was all created, in-house. And then it comes to the collection tank, and from the collection tank it is pumped with a regular, few HP motor onto that several beds of soil biotechnology bed. So it has hardened muram, hardened soil. Because if you have rocks, water will not percolate. If you have soil, it will flow. So the secret is to have hardened soil. So the hardened soil allows the black and grey water to percolate, get purified, and then it comes out. And part of the purification is also certain selected plants which have been researched to have very specific kind of bacteria. And so soil has thousands of times more bacteria to purify all of this waste compared to water. And then also these plants and the roots of the plants are the root bacteria, and then geophagous earthworms, and then what my friend who owns the IP of this soil biotechnology calls bioreactor. And he's always very afraid that we'll figure out what that bioreactor is. So even while installing it at our eco village, he would bring it at night and do it, because he knew that lots of intelligent people are there in that ashram and they should not catch it.
Yeah.
So all of this put together, so they run 2 cycles of that, and then what comes out is called fish fit water. It is then used for irrigation, and we generate around 20 million liters of water per annum, and it is used for agriculture. And somehow interestingly we found that the plants which use this water, they grow more luxuriant and more healthy, more powerful. And we are very soon setting up an entire sustainability research project of excellence. So we want to create a center of excellence for research in sustainability at the Eco Village. We are in dialogue with several prominent universities, including IIT, and maybe we will see that very soon. And it will be a very good incubator for various research projects for sustainability students across the world.
So coming to the tea.
Yeah. So then I said about food, water, waste, and fourth is energy.
Oh, then, okay.
So as far as energy is concerned, we have most prominently solar as an alternative energy. That also was installed as a part of corporate social responsibility. And now 50% of our energy requirements are covered by solar. Our goal is over the next 1 year to be completely off the grid. And then in next 2 years, we want to give back to the grid. That's the plan with which we are working. And that's one aspect of alternative energy. We are in a wind shadow area, so the windmills would not work there. So that's not out of option. The third aspect is we tried an animal-driven prime mover for some time. It is called ADPM, where you have a gear shaft-driven system, and then you have a bull which moves around. And when the bull moves around, the gear system helps to bring that water from inside out. But that didn't work for long, although the technology is great. But we couldn't find someone patient enough to keep going behind the bull all day.
to get some Olympic runners to keep going around.
So the concept is great actually, and we also wanted to showcase the utility of the bulls with that, and it was such a simple effective arrangement, and practically instead of using motor pumps, you could just have, based on mechanical power, all of this water used for irrigation. It was working well for some time, but it's not working right now. And so that's as far as alternative energy. And then another aspect of this is, along with the food, water, energy and waste, we are also trying to make sure that we use indigenous seeds for growing our plants. So especially, we are preserving in a seed bank 56 varieties of authentic traditional rice. So there are certain qualities and species of rice called Mahadi and Genie, which have such medicinal qualities that when you eat that rice, your microfractures will get healed.
Really?
So that's very, very
don't
powerful.
know those varieties in South Africa.
And it's just fascinating that there is so much of power in some of this traditional knowledge. But what is traditional and which is very, very effective is often not brought out to the forefront. And we are just trying to act as a medium of communication, of preserving those practices and sharing that with others. So therefore, along with that, we have also tried all kinds of environmentally friendly, sustainable construction techniques, including rammed earth, including cob, and then compressed, stabilized earth blocks, where you have a simple mechanically driven compressing machine, where we have mud and we mix grit powder, 7 to 8% cement, 2 to 3% lime, and we put all of that together. And we have various kinds of blocks, but typically 800 to 900 grams of brick we kind of make, and it is compressed and then just kept out for drying, not fired. So only thing we need to do is, in the design we added an extra 1.5 feet of overhang, so that the rain doesn't come in contact with this mud block. And then so the final walls would have these mud blocks with pointing done with mud also, and even the slurry which is used is also of this similar type. So we are minimizing the use of mud. We are minimizing the use of cement.
Yeah.
Then, as part of the design, you also add arch panels. So arches have very high load bearing capacity. So therefore, you minimize the use of steel. So the difference between an RCC roof and an arch panel roof is the amount of steel which we use is substantially lesser in an arch panel. Where you have precast arch panels, you only cast the beams in advance, and then these panels are then placed on the beams as the walls are coming up. The arch panel is being cast on the side. So you don't have to wait for 21 days for curing after casting the RCC roof. And also the steel which is used is substantially less. So and plus aesthetically it is very pleasing. So from all perspectives, the arch panel roof is very beautiful. Another design feature is a vaulted roof, which looks very traditional, very beautiful, and it can also it also has very less embodied energy. So overall, if you compare the embodied energy of a regular brick wall with plaster, paint and cement, and compare that to a regular mud block, compressed stabilized earth block wall. So a typical wall with cement, plaster and paint, its embodied energy is 72 megajoules per kilogram. And a mud block wall, its embodied energy is 0.275 megajoules per kilogram.
So going right down to all the details.
So such a substantial difference between the embodied energy of plaster and paint based, and out of which paint itself is 67 megajoules.
I just want to inform the viewers that The guest we have in the studio today, he's a graduate from India Institute of Technology, he's BTech, and very proficient, top of the class graduates that come out of there. So you can see he's very proficient in what he does. I was going to ask before we get to the tea, because all of this certainly takes a very proficient expert team.
Yeah.
And how do you actually manage to sustain the program as well as service your vision of this actually in the villages and so on? It must be taking a lot of effort, time, expertise.
Well, to do anything in this world, it takes some effort and time and expertise. We have a team of committed volunteers and people who want to be employed in the social entrepreneurship sector, and therefore, it's a very growing area, emerging area, social entrepreneurship, and you could make a living and a career even within that sector. And so therefore the T part is important, which is tradability.
Yes.
So tradability means that whatever the farmers are growing, we help share that in the market, and we have set up our own brand of various products called Haribo, pure food for the soul. So we are trying to share that with others, and we guarantee the farmers that whatever they grow will purchase it at a fair price, and we act as the medium between the farmers and try to sell it across. So it's still in the it's happening, but practically our vegetables and all the grains, spices, everything which the farmers are growing, we provide a platform for tradability. So
That's
therefore
fine.
the SMART is stability, morality, ability, respectability, and tradability.
Yeah.
That's our idea of smart village.
Yeah, very wonderful. So good way of using that and presenting all the deep philosophical understanding of how to operate the economy, agriculture, leadership, etc. Now, for the viewers who may be intrigued about all of these very detailed understanding, you could also go onto the internet and look up Govardhan Eco Village and see what's happening there. I'm sure we can even post a link on our site, and the viewers can go and see what's happening in such projects. We should collaborate more, the South African government, with such projects, because we need that in this country. Besides all of his involvement in these corporate government projects and initiatives on the social reformation and social entrepreneurship projects, Gauranga Prabhu is an inspirational speaker, and coming from his own deep practice of a spiritual paradigm, his whole life is based on understanding and practice of Vedic knowledge in contemporary and very, let's say, attractive ways, because he has so much on the internet already, and people all over the world are watching him. So he's been invited to speak at institutes like Google, Microsoft, and even came to South Africa and met some officials, or spoke to officials at ESCOM, our power generators. So could you tell us, in your interaction with these kinds of fora, how do you present, and what are their interests in inviting you over to these fora? What are they actually looking for?
Every organization is very much eager to improve their overall functioning, efficiency, and technology systems help at one level as far as the machines are concerned, systems are concerned, the products, goods, services. But what about the man behind the machine? So therefore, if the virus is stuck in the hard disk of a computer, you need an antivirus software. So if the machine is sophisticated, latest, cutting edge, but the man sitting behind the machine is depressed, without any inspiration and purpose, what you will do having the best machine. So therefore, one of the greatest challenges people all over the world are facing is grappling with various kinds of motivation theories and productivity studies. How to improve productivity, motivation, quality. And so they invite me to help people experience greater harmony. Harmony with the self, harmony with the divine, harmony with others in relationships, harmony with nature. And this basically is the concept which we as mindful leadership consultants try to provide. Improved harmony.
And how does that work with you in a intercultural, multicultural, interfaith, context where there are people from different backgrounds when they
Yeah,
in the audience?
see, if someone is experiencing tuberculosis, the tuberculosis in India is same as tuberculosis in Africa is same as in America. When you're dealing with disease is beyond culture, religion, race. So it's a common battle.
Certainly, yeah.
So when people are affected and impacted in the mind, so I'm just helping you go beyond looking at this as religion, spirituality. Change the paradigm and look at it as we are healthcare professionals. We are interested in providing best quality health. Is there any problem?
No.
That's what we are into. That's our business. So whether a person is in India or America or Africa or wherever, he is dealing with the mind. So the body inside has the same red blood only. Like that, the mind also is same, having similar anxieties, concerns, stresses, problems, insecurities. So we are helping with mental health.
It's interesting that you began your talk with that focus, and as we're coming towards the end of our discussion, we're reverting to that. I've read World Health Organization said that by 2019, 2020, which is just around the corner, 1 in 3 people in the world would have this kind of cognitive dissonance. And certainly an initiative like yours is helping. I would like to ask you also to advise or guide the youth. We have a large youth component who are entering the work, the stresses from their studies, and also there seems to be a confusion amongst the youth in terms of even the smart could apply, the morality and the ability could apply to their own efforts in society. So we're seeing that generally in society, the youth, would probably sometimes I think of them as as like the lost generation. So how would you advise?
One of the studies have revealed that when the number of choices increase, satisfaction levels go down. And therefore, when there are limited choices, then the satisfaction level is higher. So one of the challenges the youth is facing is, thanks to the influence of the internet, social media, the options and the choices have grown exponentially over the last 3 decades. So this generation is faced with a challenge which probably the previous generation was not facing to such an extent. And therefore, the more things are changing, the more they need to take shelter of things which do not change. Which is, they have to lead principle-centric lives, purpose-driven lives. Otherwise, the goalposts will be constantly shifting and they'll be confused. Therefore, it's all the more important in this day and age for the youth to get aligned to a true north with respect to a philosophy, a purpose, principles. That would go a long way in stabilizing them.
And then to conclude, we introduced the idea of the self at the beginning. And that comes from a deep understanding, philosophical understanding. And how would you encourage youth to pursue that kind of understanding towards self, deeper understanding of their identity, which seems to bring that stability?
See, the principle is same. When a youth wants to become an engineer or a doctor or a computer professional, the first thing he does is connects. Right? It's a connection. So if you have common interests, you connect. So if you are interested in any philosophy or principles and purpose, you connect with those who are on the path or on the journey. And through that connection, everything will follow. So that connection can also be called as association. Then in that association they can get some relevant books, Then those books will help inspire, some change. And then in terms of both their lifestyle change and diet, because even diet can have a major role to play. And therefore one of the biggest challenges in this century is going to be how to maintain good health in the long run. And so wellness is a major criteria. So that I call as the ABCD: association, books, lifestyle changes, and diet. If they follow that, I think their life will be more peaceful.
Yeah, and these mnemonics you're presenting to us, we used to use them to remember things when we study. So I think it's really good for students to remember all of these. So speaking about connecting, I'm glad I connected with Gauranga Das, who's come all this way to give us the benefit of his astute wisdom, which comes from a very deep practice of the principles that he's been speaking about. And certainly this kind of leadership is rare. He has been in South Africa giving leadership conferences and seminars at different venues. And he unfortunately leaves tomorrow, but we do want to encourage him to come back. And if you wish to connect with him also, he has a wide following on his Facebook, and we'll share those details. There are other social media that he's on, and we certainly want to encourage you to take advantage of his wisdom.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.